Hey, if this is your first time watching Off the Record, thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoy. This is episode 12. All right, so this is Off the Record. This is episode 12. That's right. A dozen of these bad boys are now here it's official. They're in the record book. Anyway, I'm Andy Singleton, People's Fan on Twitter. This is Nickel Press TV. We encourage and invite you to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Wherever you are, we are as well. You know that we got a new format, 5 rounds. We're adding a bonus round this week. That's going to be a little tease at the end. But our guests are going to battle 60 seconds each. They're going to debate each other, tell you why they're making a case for the player of their choosing. And then our judge, the Lord, Tehol Beddict, is going to declare a winner. The points really don't mean anything at all. It's really just for the entertainment value. I had to find something for Beddict to do, and this is what we came up with. So there you have it. Before we get into everything, don't forget to check out our sponsors, Official Fantasy Rings, as well as our partners, Friends of Fantasy Benefits, Dynasty Football Factory, and the Fantasy Assembly. And before I introduce our guest, I think he has something to say. So,
are these fantasy rings people going to give me a ring or what? I mean, they're promoting us, but we can't even get a sample size. I want a ring. I've won countless titles, championships. I can show them my records. Fantasy Pro sponsored. I can give them all of my career statistics if they would please give me a ring so I could properly promote their product. That'd be great.
We've actually switched sponsors from one ring manufacturer to the upgraded ring manufacturer, who happens to work with Michael Rappaport and sponsors the I Am Rappaport podcast. So we now are colleagues of Michael Rappaport, if that makes you feel any better. And they did promise.
I don't know who that is, but is this like the old one was cubic zirconium and the new one's like
official?
Okay, cool.
Like you could wear it. And they did say that they would be sending us rings. Anyway, I don't think the people want to hear this. I think the people want to get into what we brought our guests in for this week. So let me just go ahead and introduce them. Our first guest is a friend of mine since I first got into this whole football thing, the whole Twitter business, all that kind of stuff. He's always had my back. He's a draft Nick. He's a former college receiver himself. Mr. Jeff Lloyd, coming to us from Jersey. How are you today, sir?
Couldn't be fabulous. Couldn't be better, Andy. Obviously, you do a lot of this with draft writers and stuff of that nature, and fantasy writers. For me, the fantasy thing is I've been playing fantasy football longer than most of the top fantasy writers in this business have been writing. So, obviously, I come with a ton of experience. I'll tell you right now, my earnings have been, quite substantive. Last time I checked, it was, definitely well over the 20,000 range that I've won in years playing this game. It's just so much fun. I mean, especially diehard Jets fan, we're not always good. So how do you find another way to enjoy football Sundays? Have some fantasy action going.
That's right. All right. Well, I know you're ready to bring it. And the challenger you face tonight is a returning guest to the show. Somebody that was on before we tweaked the format, so he didn't really have to debate, but he does have to redeem himself in Beddict's eyes based on some of the things he said in his first appearance that the Lord has continued to take issue with each and every week since that episode aired. So I present to you Mr. Richard Janvrin. Go ahead, sir. Reintroduce yourself to the world.
So yeah, I'm Richard Janvrin, writer for Bleacher Report, do fantasy over there. But anyway, what did I do wrong? Okay, I was right about Matt Forte. I was right about Jay Ajayi. I mean, come on, what did I do wrong?
The Jay Ajayi love will never die for you, buddy.
No, it will not.
Yeah, do you have anything to back that up? I'm not sure what you're. Usually, I'm referencing the Jay Ajayi thing, who finally somehow exploded on the pathetic Pittsburgh Steelers, an embarrassment to the city, to the town, the state, everybody who's involved, the fans that travel all over the country for them for whatever reason. They're the biggest fan base I've ever seen. Why? I have no idea. Their fans are everywhere. That was pathetic. But Jay Ajayi, one of the biggest bums in the world, ran for 2 bills.
Okay.
I think it was the Torrey Smith one that really got him.
Torrey even finally had a TD last week.
He finally did. Kaepernick, yeah, that's the answer.
Well, as we know, patience is a virtue in fantasy. But Richard, tell everybody how they can find you on Twitter once again.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Richard Janvrin. Last name is spelled Janvrin. Everybody gets that name wrong, so I have to spell it out. And yeah, that's where you can find me there, and BleacherReport.com, or download the Team Stream app. I'm a company man, so there we go.
Excellent plug. And Jeff, one time, let everybody know how they can find you on Twitter.
At Jeff_LJ_Lloyd.
All right. So before we get into our rounds, Judge, Ruler, Lord, do you have any rules for the contestants that you'd like to go over?
No, just please don't annoy me today. It's been a long day. I've been up. I had to go to the dentist. I had to take my car in. I was rear-ended. Been dealing with clients all day. It's just been an annoying day. It's pouring rain. Please just don't annoy the Lord.
No promises. No promises.
All right. Well, I am going to start with round one with 2 wide receivers, one of which people have been hyping up for a couple of years now. The other has been basically hyped up for a couple of weeks. Cameron Meredith and John Brown.
Well, the thing with John Brown is obviously, here's where we're at. The last 3 weeks, obviously, you take into account to the Ram game. Obviously, 10 receptions, 144 yards. The Thursday night game versus the San Francisco 49ers. Take that game and throw it in the river. Nothing relevant fantasy-wise. Just disgusting. Drew Stanton playing. Toss it to the river. 5 for 54 last night against the Jets. Obviously, we're starting to see more and more that John Brown's activity, his athleticism, his deep threat is something that they need. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald still very established. Really can't get deep anymore. Now, as the season goes on, Johnson has been fantastic as a running back for them. What's going to happen? 8, 9 in the box. Carson Palmer, let's hope for total health. The only way to keep David Johnson going is to, by all means, get some deep threat going. There's only one deep threat on the entire Cardinals roster, and it's John Brown. He's a guy we got to feature here. 6 touchdowns average, first 2 seasons in the league, has 0 to this point. You got to think with 20 receptions, if you throw out that 1 week in between, those touchdowns are going to come. John Brown may have disappointed you up until this point, but you got to think you're getting some gold here as we go on through, on down the road. If the Cardinals are going to get themselves back to the playoffs, which is what they're accustomed to at this point.
So, okay, John Brown, it was a pretty good game last night, but I mean, come on, we got Cam Meredith here, the wide receiver 2 in PPR over the last 2 weeks. He's clearly the Bears' number 2 receiver. Played virtually the same amount of snaps as Alshon Jeffrey over the past 2 weeks. I mean, you just look at all the stats here. He's out targeting Jeffrey right now, 27-19. He has the touchdown from Hoyer. He's seeing 31.7% of Hoyer's pass attempts. How many is that? Well, Hoyer has the second most attempts over the past 3 weeks. So, I mean, Cam Meredith is here to stay. He's going to get a ton of catches if he doesn't get you a touchdown. I mean, I'd rather have him over John Brown for the rest of the year.
Hoyer is just so stuck to this guy. It's disgusting. Where's Alshon, the god, the legend going down the field? It's killing me slowly. Once a week, Jeffrey has no TDs. Meredith, I don't even know who this guy is. He's going for 100 yards every week. I gotta kind of lean with Richard here. I like the skulls in the background from Jeff, and I'm looking forward to pieces on some future guys down the road. But John Brown, I have in many leagues, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on in Arizona. Things are weird. They're trying to keep Larry Fitzgerald as the just heavily targeting, which is fine. But I mean, I would like to see the ball spread around a little bit to all the weapons they have there. What is going on? Brown had the one good week. I'm going to lean with Dick on this one.
Kenny Britt this week again versus Cole Beasley.
Most Sundays I write what's called a fantasy takeaways article, and I was writing about Kenny Britt. And at first, because he went off for that huge game, and the Rams receiver hasn't seen a game like that since week 10 of 2013. I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is Kenny Britt. This is never going to happen again. But then I looked at his stats. I mean, the guy's had at least 67 receiving yards every week this season, except for week 3. He's the wide receiver 16 right now in PPR. I mean, it's kind of fair to say he could be a possible wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, kind of in that mix for the rest of the year. I mean, right now he's on pace for 80 catches for 1,300 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, this is a guy who's never had 800 yards in a single season. And I mean, Keenum, he is what he is, but he's given Kenny Britt the ball, and nothing's changed so far this year.
These numbers, currently on pace, 88 receptions, 1,040 yards, 8 touchdowns. This is Cole Beasley, a team with Dez Bryant, a team with Terrence Williams, a team with Bryce Butler, a team playing with a rookie quarterback. Here's where we're going to go. Week 1, 8 out of 12 targets completed. 5 out of 6 targets, week 2, completed. Week 3, 7 out of 7. Week 4, 3 out of 4. Week 5, 4 out of 4. Week 6, 6 out of 6. In the last 2 weeks, went into Green Bay, 2 touchdowns last week. Week 5, touchdown against Cincinnati. The other thing, slot receiver. Oh, no, slot receiver. Between weeks 2 and 4, a 28-yard reception, a 29-yard reception, a 47-yard reception. Either way, as this goes forward, even if Tony Romo comes back and gets the snaps, he's going to be hesitant. He's not going to be looking downfield, even if it's Dez Bryant or anybody else. He's got a broken back. He's got a broken neck. What are you going to look for? You're going to feature off your rookie running back who's killing the league and the guys who are going to eat up on the short patterns. Jason Witten, God love him to death, Hall of Famer. But Cole Beasley is eating it up from the slot right now, doing things of Patriot-type guys. Wes Welker in Miami-type things. Cole Beasley, 88, 1040, 8 touchdowns. It's crazy.
Beddict, what receiver are you taking based on the arguments that were just made before you?
I didn't hear much about Romo's comeback and how that'll affect it. Dez Bryant's comeback. I know Dak seems like a little bit more of a dink and dunk type, although he has hit a few downfield throws the other day. Kenny Britt, we just talked about him last week. We're talking about Kenny Britt 2 weeks in a row. He did just go up, and he has been going in all season. He is pretty underrated. In another system, he would probably be a pretty good player. Remember back in Tennessee, he was kind of looked like a star for a year or two. So he's kind of a really nice player. But, yeah, Keenum looked like a Hall of Famer last week. I don't know what's going on there. I'm going Britt right now. I'm running the big dog, the old school big receivers. We're not doing the slot guys anymore.
Oh, a commanding 2-0 lead at this point. You have to start giving some bonus points in the next round. We're going to switch it over to tight ends, though. I'm going to keep it. This is going to be a tough one, man, because Richard has Jimmy Graham, and we all know Tehol loves all things Seattle. So it's almost like you're at a disadvantage already. But Kyle Rudolph.
2010, 7 touchdown passes. 2012, 5 touchdown passes. 2013, 6 touchdown passes. 2015, 5 touchdown passes. Why are these important numbers? These were tight end touchdown receptions from Sam Bradford. Some Hall of Famers like Daniel Fells, Lance Kendricks, Jared Cook, Zach Ertz. Now you put him with a guy like Zach, obviously with Kyle Rudolph. 3 touchdowns through 5 games. Kyle Rudolph's top touchdown reception, 2012. 9 TD receptions in 2012. 3 through 5 already. Sam Bradford. Stephon Diggs, as we heard from the good doc, injured. May not play this week. Who is number 1 in receptions for Minnesota? Kyle Rudolph. Who was number 2 in targets? Kyle Rudolph. No Adrian Peterson. Red zone, where you're going to go to. You're going to go to your tight end. Anything Cordarrelle Patterson can give you receiving-wise is just going to make things easier for Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph, from here on out, is just going to roll on pace for his matching his career touchdown receptions in 9. Does he get 10? I don't see any reason why he doesn't.
Richard, I hope you brought something with Jimmy Graham.
Well, see, this was a tough one because I like Kyle Rudolph. There's nothing against him. I thought we were doing kind of bad players that we thought were going to be kind of good, but because I thought Rudolph was great. So this is going to be tough. But all right, so Jimmy Graham, Tyler Lockett coming into the year was a widely hyped wide receiver, but he's done nothing this year, and he's been dealing with some lingering injuries. You look at on the year, Jimmy Graham has just 2 less targets than Doug Baldwin, and over the last 2 games, so that'll be week 6 and 4 because they had a week 5 bye. He has 9 more targets than Doug Baldwin over that stretch. And also he's tied for first in the last 2 games among all tight ends in receptions He's first in yards, and he's the TE4 over the last 2 weeks. Small sample size, I know, but going forward, I think that he's probably the number one pass-catching option for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
I've been a Rudolph believer before people were Rudolph believers. I try to tell people this guy is so talented. He's one of the top 5, top 3 talented tight ends in the league. They've always just had a weak-ass quarterback situation. Bridgewater's garbage. Bradford, who I've hated more than anybody my whole life, is somehow way better than Teddy Bridgewater. He's terrible. I'm glad he's replaced. He's going to be looking to keep that job. Teddy B, be lucky to ever get another starting job in the NFL again. But, Jimmy Graham was a guy that every fantasy guy had way low on their – he was like 18, 15, 17 on people's preseason tight end thing because they're worried about the injury. I'm like, get out of here, dude. Are you serious? This guy, how quickly we all forget what an absolute legend this light-skinned hog is out there. This is insane. He's killing it. He's getting major targets. Everything is a connection there. I'm loving it. Jimmy Graham.
What? Yeah,
There we go.
Completely the opposite direction of what we were expecting you to say there. All right. Well, listen, the good news is these points mean nothing. I personally like the Kyle Rudolph argument.
I did too. It was a good one.
Listen, I'm taking Rudolph over Jimmy Graham based on what I heard here today.
I'm taking Rudolph too. So there we go.
So Jeff, you won this round. It's 2-1. I'm overruling the judge. This is picked up to the Supreme Court at this point. All right. I'm going to bring in a doctor because before we get into this next round, one of the players mentioned is on this list, and this just came about as we started recording. So let's bring in Dr. Selene Parekh, the fantasy doctor, and see what he has to say about all players injured that you should be worried about this week. All right, so a few big names on the injury list this week. We're going to get right to the biggest one, of course, being Ben Roethlisberger. What can you tell us in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so Big Ben ended up with a meniscus tear. He played the rest of the game, played the whole second half, had surgery Monday morning. The fact that he had a clean-out surgery is a great thing versus a repair. So that means he should be back within 1 to 3 weeks. We know that the Steelers are going to keep him out this week. Then they've got a bye, so look for him to be back week 9. And I don't anticipate any big issues with him. So
people should not be dropping Ben just yet on their fantasy rosters.
Absolutely not. In fact, if it makes you feel better, I've got him on my roster, and I'm looking forward to him coming back.
Awesome. Okay, and then LaShawn McCoy, he's kind of had a resurgence this year. Went down, looked a little scary. Anything that we should be worried about going forward?
Well, the video of him clutching his knee was real scary. It looked like maybe a season-ending injury. Great news is that, they examined him. He took a few plays off, got back in, ran for over 150 yards, had 3 touchdowns. So I don't think this is going to be an issue. What probably happened is that the joint kind of went out of alignment, partially popped back in. Not a big deal.
Okay, and then Tyler Eifert, I ask you about him every week. Are we getting any closer to his return?
I continue to stay worried about him. He's still not practicing, and the longer this goes out, the more concerned I am there's something bigger going on. You just got to think about players like J.J. Watt, where something is thought to be a small back issue ends up being something big. So again, watch this, but the longer this goes out, be worried that there's something bigger, and he may miss the entire season potentially.
Wow, that would be devastatingly bad. Doug Martin, Tampa Bay had the bye week. Is he any better rested, or is it time to start adding Jacquizz Rodgers?
So he did not practice Monday. I don't know if he practiced today. Keep an eye. If he does not practice tomorrow, the likelihood that he's available this weekend is pretty slim.
Theo Riddick?
Yeah, so he's got a lingering ankle injury from week 5. Looks like a high ankle sprain. Same kind of deal. You got to see if he ends up practicing later this week. If he does, he potentially will see some reps this weekend. If you don't see him by Wednesday, Thursday, he'll likely be out.
And then same thing for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, so Stephon Diggs has a groin injury. He didn't practice yesterday either. So again, these hamstrings, these groins, if they don't get the time they need to heal appropriately, these can lag throughout the entire season. So the fact that he didn't practice yesterday is not good. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, I don't anticipate him being available for the weekend.
Sounds like not something a lot of fantasy owners want to hear. Anybody else you want to shed some light on before we let you go?
A couple of things that just broke today. Vincent Jackson, wide receiver for the Bucks, has an ACL tear. He's done for the season. He's going to have surgery, 10 to 11 months to get back. And the bigger thing is Eddie Lacy. What's going to happen for Green Bay? They picked up running back today, but Eddie Lacy, if you looked at the footage from the second half of the game, did not look so good, did not look so nimble. So I think he may have limited reps this week coming up. And with a short week, it's going to be a big problem for him.
All right. Well, you heard it straight from the doctor's mouth. That is, of course, the fantasy doctor, Dr. Selene Parekh. I want to thank you for your time as always. You know where to send the bill, and we'll be sure to keep telling everybody to fire their medical questions away at you on Twitter. Make sure you follow the doctor. And thanks again for joining us this week.
Great. Thanks, guys.
So that was some huge news and a big sigh of relief for Big Ben owners. But I'm sure some other things you weren't expecting to hear, such as the Eddie Lacy news, which brings us to our round 4 question. And I will tell you this, before both Carlos Hyde and Eddie Lacy were struck with injuries is when both Richard and Jeff told me that these were the running backs they wanted to discuss. And it was to discuss who they would like to drop. So the arguments are going to be made why these players should be dropped. And the injury status now just adds to that. So since you're in the lead, I'm going to start with you, Richard. You have Eddie Lacy.
Dropping is a strong word. I mean, I'd still keep him on my roster, but he is a legitimate question mark every week that he's healthy of, do I start Eddie Lacy or insert running back X? But, I mean, you got to look at what he's done this season, and it's not a ton. He has no touchdowns. The ankle injury, which obviously is going to keep him out several more weeks, according to Ian Rappaport. That obviously is a huge, huge damper to his value moving forward. He has just one 100-yard game. And, I mean, there was a chart that I saw on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, that kind of compared Brian Hoyer and Aaron Rodgers over their last 12 starts. And Hoyer's been actually doing better. I mean, you look at it, he's averaging 262 passing yards a game to Rodgers' 226, a 20-5 touchdown interception ratio to Rodgers' 20-9, better passer rating. The only thing Rodgers has is just one more win. So with that, the passing game isn't that good. Eddie Lacy's not going to be able to find anything to do. He's not going to be able to find any lanes. And then you also have him as the RB39 right now in PPR leagues. RB39 for Eddie Lacy. I mean, that is just awful. And he only has 4 catches this year. 4. I mean, he's tough to drop because he's Eddie Lacy, but, I mean, he is awful this year.
You're not allowed to have pre-written statistics.
I don't. You know, I don't have them.
Flag sheet of paper. All right, so Jeff,
Right.
What was your argument against Carlos Hyde?
Well, one of the things I had first of all is he's not very, he's not he's injury prone, doesn't finish a lot of seasons. But the other thing is he's played above his head. He's had a great year, 6 TDs to this point. But then again, you look at his stats: 3.9 yards per carry. He's under 4 yards per carry in 4 games. They're not doing anything. The other thing is now that Colin Kaepernick is the starter, there is no need for a safety valve. There's no need for running back catches. Kaepernick will just run the ball as opposed to throwing it to him. So thus loses his value. The other thing is San Francisco's offense is terrible. There is not a decent quarterback on that team. There's not a decent wide receiver. Jeremy Curley is a wide receiver 1, for God's sakes. There is no reason to believe that anything good San Francisco offensive-wise is going to happen for the rest of the season. They're going to play in 10 more games. If they are lucky, if they count on their stars, they will be favored in maybe one of those games. It's just everything about that situation. Sell them on. I'm not even saying drop them. Maybe trade him on the 6 touchdowns. But obviously now with the injury and being in a sling, it's going to hurt him. But that's where we're at. I mean, if you want any part of the San Francisco offense right now, God bless you, man.
You can only have one running back of these 2 choices, Eddie Lacy, Carlos Hyde. Which one do you actually want on your roster?
Well, I didn't even know Hyde was hurt till just now. I mean, he is an injury-prone baby back Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know he was banged up already. We got to have to remember that he did score like 2 garbage time TDs and get over 100 yards against the Seahawks in an absolute blowout when Chip Kelly left them in and kept pounding the ball even though they were down 35 or whatever the point. So yeah, I mean the stats are a little inflated. I'm a big Hyde fan on the talent wise, but I think I'd prefer to have Lacey, quite honestly.
So then that means Jeff has just won this round and tied things up at 2.
Even with him out for multiple weeks. Oh man. Okay.
All right. Well, like I said,
Rich. Honestly, this is like, do you want a punch in the face or a punch in the gut? I mean, either way, you want no part of this. At least Hyde catches the ball. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I think we both did good on picking running backs. We both wanted to give a little zing to.
well, that's the tease for the bonus round because we'll get to that in a minute. But we got
Oh
round
God,
5.
help him.
We got round 5. We got a tie game. This is 3 weeks in a row with this new format. We've had a tie going into the 5th and final round, and I'm going to call this the redemption round because Richard would like to vouch for Jay Ajayi, who after this past weekend, anybody mentioning that name is going to look good.
First things first. If we're talking about Kristen Michael, finally we're seeing something. A low rushing average, 71 yards, a high of 111, consistent every week, 88.2 yards per game, 3 receptions per game, averaging 1 touchdown per game. The Seattle, obviously, we've been looking for something since Marshawn Lynch. We've heard of Rawls, we've heard of Pro Size, they drafted Alex Collins, and here it is, the guy they drafted in 13, who's bounced around the league, has come in and done consistent things. 20 touches per week, averaging 88.2 yards per week, and a touchdown. An absolute high-end number 2 running back, at worst a low-end number 1 running back. Any way you want to look at it, Michael has been getting it done. There's nothing else going on running game-wise right now in Seattle at the running back position, whether it's receiving, whether it's rushing, and I don't want to hear C.J. Spiller. He's only here till everybody gets healthy. They're not giving him any carries. Kristen Michael is just getting it done.
This is an unfair contest because I think everybody with half a brain would rather have Christine Michael over Jay Ajayi. And don't be wrong, I love Jay Ajayi. I think I love him more than his parents do. Okay, because I mean I've been
Absolutely.
on this guy. I've been on this guy forever, and let me just say, Week 6 was. I mean, it was like a child's first birthday. It was like a baptism. I don't know, important stuff, But so Jay Ajayi last. There you go. I'll let you say that. That's you need to say my thoughts. I can't say it. I can't say it. You can say it.
Do you remember your first time, Richard?
They bring in Arian Foster. It didn't worry me in August. It doesn't worry me now. I mean, look, the guy has another soft tissue injury. Adam Gase said a couple weeks ago that they need to go to just one guy rather than this stable of guys like, Damian Williams, Kenyon Drake, Isaiah Pete. I think he's still lingering around. They all stink. Okay, Jay Ajayi is the guy in the backfield. I don't care when Foster comes back. It's going to be all Jay Ajayi in the backfield. Foster will sprinkle in and get his catches for sure. Jay Ajayi does struggle in that regard. But, he saw 3 carries last week. He's dealing with his hamstring injury. Over the past, 3 weeks here, Jay Ajayi has accounted for 68.75% of the Dolphins' rushing attempts. Jay Ajayi is the guy in Miami moving forward. He's a running back, too, the rest of the way.
So, Lord, which way are you leaning?
Between who?
Ajayi and Kristen Michael.
This is unfair.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we went over Michael. Yeah, Richard was long-winded thing about losing virginity, births, childbirth, first birthdays, things that get confused. Got caught in his amazing hairline yet again. I love it. I have to point it out. It's good. But Jay Ajayi and the Dolphins, I just don't trust it. I was kind of a Ajayi fan when he was coming out of the draft. Thought it kind of odd he fell so late. I thought it was kind of odd they did nothing at running back, and then he didn't really do anything early. But Christina is coming on heavy right now. He's looking good. He was the forgotten man. He was sent to Dallas. He couldn't even get on the field. We actually received a draft pick for him, and then he was in Washington with Fluahan, the other guy who helped draft him in the first place. He didn't even make it there. They had not a great running back situation. Then he comes back to Seattle. He's got everything going for him. He's becoming the star we always hoped he would. He looks real solid, man. I mean, he's looking real good. I'm gonna lean Michael on this one, man. I got to go with the hometown team. Plus, I just think he's more talented running back than Ajayi, and I don't think Rawls is coming back anything like he was last year. So maybe it'll be another year before he's back 100%.
All right. Well, I mentioned we have a bonus round, and it's a good thing we do because based on what the Lord judged, it'd be 3-2 Richard. Based on my overruling, it'd be 3-2 Jeff. So it's basically kind of 2-2, and we'll throw out that in-between one, and we'll use the bonus round. And I'm making this the bonus round because both of our guests, both of these fine gentlemen, wanted to go against C.J. Anderson. So I figured why not let them both go against C.J. Anderson and see who can make the better argument as to why they don't like him going forward.
Well, the first things first, 4 TDs on the season for C.J. Anderson. 2 of them week 1, obviously against Carolina. Looked impressive at the time. Who are we kidding? Carolina's a 1-5 team. Weeks 2 through 6, under 4 yards per carry. Under 3 yards per carry, 2 of those weeks. Receiving in the last 2 weeks, had picked up receptions. Not good, because that is not C.J. Anderson's game. This is not the Denver Broncos game. Now, here's the other thing. Devontae Booker, 4.7 yards per carry on the season. 8.1 on 8 out of 11 targets throughout the season. This is a backfield by committee going further. This team wants to throw the ball. They've lost the last 2 weeks. This is not a team that wants to lose games. This defense is way too good. C.J. Anderson and is maybe a 3.8, 3.9 yards per carry. This isn't what's getting it done for this team. He's just not getting it done. Congratulations on re-signing him and matching Miami's offer. But you know what? Ajayi is a better fit in Miami than C.J. Anderson is right now in Denver.
Like Jeff said, Devontae Booker has been coming on lately. Even head coach Gary Kubiak has come out and said that they're going to get him more involved. Right now, over the last 3 games, C.J. Anderson's the running back 25 in PPR leagues. And over the last 3 games, C.J. Anderson has played in 79 more snaps and has 22 more carries than Booker, and he's outgained him by just 28 yards. So clearly, the playing time doesn't make a difference for C.J. Anderson. And then also, he has a long run of 12 yards, which, okay, so over the past 3 weeks, there have been 59 running backs to have at least one carry that went 15 yards or more. C.J. Anderson's not one of them. To add to that, according to Pro Football Focus, the Denver Broncos offensive line is the 3rd best rated run-blocking offensive line in football. Clearly, it doesn't matter for C.J. Anderson because he's just terrible. I mean, that's really all it comes down to it. Devontae Booker's the guy there. C.J. Anderson, I don't know if it's a scheme fit or what, but he's toast.
So I like points from both guys. Jeff was hitting on the Miami offering C.J. Anderson the deal in Denver matching when they stupidly could have got him for much less by tendering him or whatever, and they didn't do that. Now they're kind of stuck with him and paid him way too much money when, Booker is probably just as good or possibly better, and they could have just kept up Hillman, who did okay last year too. I mean, why did they feel the need to spend the money on C.J. Anderson? There's nothing unique about this guy at all. But then Richard came back and dropped bombs and came with the PFF references, which I love these days. Denver has the 3rd best offensive line, yet this guy doesn't have a run for longer than 12 yards. I can't believe these stats. I didn't know these stats. Richard, thank you for giving me them. And you win this round. You win all this money.
All right, I'll take it.
Wait, you give it. All right, so you give it to Rich?
Giving me $212.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, depending on how you were scoring at home or how the official scoring went down on this, we're not sure who the winner is. Richard could have the money. Jeff pointed out all the money he's made. Winning football. Start of the show.
Money.
There's a draw again right there. Official stat corrections will be determined later. I want to thank everybody for joining us this week. I got my work cut out for me now. Now is when the fun starts for me, and I get to go back and cut and splice this stuff up. So let me go around real quick again. Jeff, can you tell everybody how they can find you on Twitter or any other things you'd like to promote?
At Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. There's some new things coming on the horizon here very shortly. Obviously, like I told you guys, draft stuff, focus into fantasy football, which I've been doing for well over 20 plus years. So that's where we're at, man. Always a pleasure, Andy. Anytime, guy. You know that.
Appreciate you joining us. And Richard, appreciate you jumping on again for your second run at this. I hope you like the new format. Hope we weren't too hard on you this week. But tell everybody again where they can find you and anything you'd like to plug or promote.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Richard Janvrin, last name spelled Janvrin. I have about 5 articles a week coming out on Bleacher Report. I do a lot of fantasy takeaways from the weekend, and throughout the week I do a lot of DFS market reports in which I look at some of the latest news and give you some DFS ramifications about what you should do with players in the respective situations. Lots of good stuff going on over there. I'm loving it. Blessed.
Would you like to say anything in parting? Any of your wisdom? Would you like to leave it on the following? Sir?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, yes. Yes, please follow me on Twitter. Although I've been spending way too much time on there, I'm trying to take a break. I don't get the respect I deserve on there, so I'm just taking a step back. It's ruining my life. Only Richard knows what I go through as he follows my every word, but nobody else really does. And it's really getting old and wearing on me and aging me and all these things. And so I'm just going to have to take a step back, but I still would feel cooler if my follower count went up a little bit higher. So at LordBeddict.com or whatever it is, Twitter at me, whatever.
At Lord Beddict. I will vouch for you as well. Follow this guy. Get his follow.
Did anybody else get a Mom the Meatloaf now feeling right there?
Yeah.
From Tehol, I get that. I get that every week. We actually had a mom moment at one point when she was looking for her hotspot. That was a classic moment. His mom was in the background yelling, "I can't find my hotspot. Where's my hotspot?" It was simply. It was simply.
Is that real?
That was real. Oh man. Yeah, I will vouch for the Lord. Get his followers up. Listen, if you've ever been offended by anything that this man has said on his timeline, you are not understanding that it is all in good fun and humor. Some of our humor is different than others, but I will tell you this is a genuine, honest, and good guy and good man, and you should be looking at it and taking it with a grain of salt. He just pushes the envelope, and that's all. But it's harmless fun, I tell you. Anyway, we're going to wrap things up. This was episode 12. I want to thank everybody that's been joining us. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the videos. Leave your comments. If you're on Reddit, thank you. Please upvote it, whatever you got to do. For the Fantasy Doctor, Selene Parekh, our partners, Friends of Fantasy Benefits, Dynasty Football Factory, Fantasy Assembly, and of course, Official Fantasy Ring. Don't forget to join us next week where we'll be joined by Jeff Risden, who's the Detroit Lions insider, as well as Matt Harmon from NFL.com. So that will be another good episode.
Oh, poor Jeff.
Thanks to our guests as well for this week. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.